Welcome to another episode of Our Ancient Faith. My name is Bishop Nectarios, and today I wanted to talk to you about a topic that I've been getting lately, and this topic is that people seem to believe that as a bishop you should never address anything that's political. Never, never, never. And I thought, well, let's talk. So, if you're just tuning in for the first time, please hit the like and subscribe button. I put out videos on an as-needed basis. At the first point, I tried to stick to, twice a week, and in the end, it became more like a chore than a labor of love. This channel is designed to be an outreach for me to go talk to you, and I don't want it to be some formal thing, although there will be times when it is formal. You can see that I'm dressed down in civilian clothing. And pretty soon we're going to be implementing coffee with a bishop. Uh, so let's get started with this. Now, the reason most people say that as a bishop you shouldn't talk about politics is because there is this widespread idea that the government from the beginning wanted more than just the separation of church and state. What's been enshrined in our country's highest laws is that the government will not choose an official church of the United States. And they try to prevent churches from endorsing specific political candidates and lobbying. But there's really problems for that, because I want you to think for a moment. Faith, real faith, not just the candy store type stuff or the cafeteria faith, but real faith is something that's intensely personal, and it's integral, it's basic to who you are as a Christian. And faith is folded into every decision you make, from how you treat someone else to how you repent if you make a mistake. And most of these political candidates run on some similar platform of, well, I'm a good guy, I'm a faithful person. And then they get elected on this platform of, hey, I'm a good guy, I believe, I love God. And then when they get elected, they're like, okay, so now you have to divorce yourself completely from this thing that is folded into every aspect of who you are if you are doing it correctly. It would be like getting elected on the premise that you write very well. And then when you get elected, they want you to stop writing or to cut off your hand, which is an extreme example. But I'm trying to draw the idea that something that's so basic as your faith, because you have to remember, from a Christian point of view, your faith affects every decision that you make. Not only how you treat others, but how you react to how you're treated, and how you react to the situations that you face in life. And you cannot simply divorce yourself from this. Now, I agree that churches should not attempt to endorse specific candidates. However, it's also true that many times politicians attempt to force the church to embrace a political position that is against the faith's teachings, with a prominent example being those nuns who were sued because they refused to offer abortion in their insurance. Nuns. Think about that for a moment. Celibate women living in community. And they're trying to force these people to toe the line, and I'm wanting to tell them, you really don't understand either Catholics or Orthodox, do you? You can try to pull that stunt if you want to, but what's going to happen is they're going to resist you, and we have defeated far more aggressive communist regimes, Tartars, pagans, Jews. I mean, take your pick. Everybody's taking a shot at us at one time or not, and you're going to lose. We're not going to offer abortion, ever, period. We are not going to accept any kind of thing that goes against the faith, period. The communists already tried, and they were murdering clergy left and right, literally murdering them, just shipping them off wholesale. I think the final count was something like 900 bishops were murdered by the regime, and that's not even counting, priests and deacons and nuns and monks and all these various people. So you're not going to force us through the use of politics to do something that is against our faith. And that's where we have to become involved in the political process, because in this country, the political process is, in theory, supposed to be our representatives, who have forgotten that they are representatives. They are thinking they're rulers. But our representatives represent us in government process, come to a decision that reflects the desires of the people they represent. Again, this is this is how it's supposed to work. I realize we're a little ways away from that, but we're a nation in decline at the moment. So, is anyone really surprised? I mean, we're at the point where we're not even really truly being represented. We hear politicians espousing beliefs that in no way represent what the people of their constituency actually want. And that happened here, notably in Wyoming. Now, it's a policy of mine not to mention names, but there was a politician here in a extremely conservative state who was espousing a belief that ran counter to everyone that lives in my particular area, bar none. And she's speaking as if she's representing us. And not just us, but the towns that are around us all have the same opinion for 3-4 hours in any direction. In Wyoming, you measure things by hours, not by miles. So getting back to the point, we have to become involved in the political process, because the political process in purity is supposed to represent the desires of the people. Remember, this is supposed to be a government that is of the people and for the people and by the people. And what we're seeing is that the government is starting to make decisions on their own without really caring what the people think. It's more of what the politician wants to accomplish. And the American people, for whatever reason, do not have the desire to, return politicians that have confused themselves with our rulers. I remember there was I believe it was a Senate hearing, and one particular prominent politician told a person in that hearing to shut up. You are a public servant. We will tell you to shut up, not the other way around. You answer to us, and you need to remember that. I don't care who you are. You could be the president. You could be the secret people who run this country in reality, because anyone looking at our government realizes that right now we have a car with no one behind the wheel. And this becomes a problem for us as Christians, people of faith. We have to become involved in the political process. So when people say, don't get involved in politics, it's really because you're uncomfortable with politics. In our country, politics and faith are the two prime motivators of the vast majority of Americans. Either what you believe or how you believe our government should be are the two major conversation topics that are household conversation topics all the time. Whether you agree with a political figure or not, and whether you believe or whether you have no belief at all, or whether you have some sort of other variation, whether you're spiritual or religious, and as an offshoot of that, your philosophy of life and how you see life affecting everyone else around you, and what you think is the proper way to live your life. I mean, these are basic conversation topics for Americans. And as clergy, we have a responsibility to be in action in the world around us. And when we fail to take that responsibility into account, what happens is our voice is not heard in the process. And the elected representatives, because there are good ones in every situation, do not take our wants and needs, desires, and our instructions for our elected representatives into account. Because if you do not register your opinion at all, you have no right to be complaining. In Wyoming right now, there is a movement to legalize a certain herbal plant that at the moment is federally prohibited. The people who are a part of this movement to legalize it are writing letters to their various political representatives. They are registering their opinion. Now, what people are afraid of is actually a misnomer, because if you look at the highest laws of our land, what the law was intended to do was to prevent the government from creating a state-approved church, not to simply cut off religion and politics forever, because if you're truly walking that path, it is not possible. Because if you can simply cut it off as if it never existed, you weren't really walking the path. You were just adapting the outward behaviors. And you were professing with your mouth, but not your heart, the deeply held beliefs. I've seen gangsters and addicts have more faith than Christians who come from, broken homes, or people who come from outstanding families. And that's because these people have walked through hell itself on earth. And they've seen evil in the world today. And it's like the American culture has forgotten that there are sins on this world, that homosexuality is still a sin, that, being hateful towards your neighbor is still a sin, and that we all are sinners, and that we are all called to repent and return to faith in God. They forget that the Christian faith is not a hop across the pond. Here, you're on one side, not saved. You hop across the pond, done, you're saved. No. The path of being a Christian is a lifelong path of continuous effort and work on your part to transform your character, to become someone better. I once knew a story about a monk who was an alcoholic, and he prayed to God every single day. And one day he did pass away, and everyone came to the abbot and they said, "You must be so glad that this monk has passed away." And the abbot said, "Well, I'm aware that the monk passed away because I saw the battalion of angels that came to pick up his soul." And the pilgrims at this monastery were surprised because they had prejudged the man. And he said, "This monk was born during an occupation by a foreign invading army, and they were killing the children because the children were preventing the parents, who were now slaves, from working in the field. So what his parents did is they brought him into the field with them while they worked, and to keep him from crying out and being discovered, they gave him a very strong alcoholic beverage called, I think it was Rocky, which is like, it's an anisette flavored drink, similar to, I want to say, Jägermeister." So he grew up as an alcoholic. And every year he prayed to God to reduce his passion by one drink, and at the end of his life, he was drinking one drink, still getting drunk. And God saw a fighter, while everyone else just saw this scandalous drunk. Your whole life is nothing more than one giant effort to configure your life to Christ, to follow Christ, to embrace salvation, to learn to trust in Him. And that's my message for tonight. You cannot divorce faith from politics. And the Christian faith is not a simple hop across the pond. It is a lifelong journey of transformation. So that's it for today. If you're joining us for the first time, please hit the like and subscribe button. Take care. God bless.